Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first Ask the Expert of 2026. Today, we're going to look at Beyond the Basics, focusing on actually some new features we've got as well within our analytics module, really to help you get the most out of Prism. But yeah, so I'm Richard, I'm the Head of Service Management here at Tiger.
And I'm Matt Rings, I'm the Technical Product Lead here at Tiger.
Thank you, Matt. And as I said in the chat there, if you've got any questions throughout this session, make sure you drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. If it's something we can't answer, even if it's not relevant to this, drop it in there. We'll make sure one of the team come back to you anyway.
Yeah, and a big welcome to everybody that's on the call from both of us. Lots of diverse companies on the call today, and hopefully you'll take something away that you can go away in your Tiger system and use over and over again.
Thank you. Right, so let's dive straight into it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run through a few slides, not death by PowerPoint, but just to let you know what we're going to cover today and just kind of show you a few bits that don't really equate to the live, and then we'll go into our usual live demo. So Matt, let's talk about analytics first.
Yeah, so we're going to be covering off some sort of more advanced features of analytics. We're going to be looking at how to save widgets, why saving widgets is a good thing and how to work on them, how to share a widget, because this is one of the things, you build all this great data in Prism and you're sitting there looking at it. How do I share this with my colleagues? What's the different ways we can do that? We're going to learn some new analytics fields. We have a large, diverse set of analytics fields. I still don't know every single one of them. There's over 1,000 of them.
Matt says that, but we think he knows all of them.
But we're going to be looking at some that maybe you've never even thought existed in Prism. So we're going to cover some of those. And as Richard said at the beginning, we've also got a new feature in analytics, which I'm going to show you how it works.
Yeah, and for our hosted customers, we will be deploying this latest version of Prism to all of you in the next sort of few weeks, certainly within the next month. So this will be available to you shortly if it's not already there.
Yeah, and obviously if you don't have that feature, contact your account manager.
Yeah.
They'll be able to discuss how to get you to that point.
Yeah, and equally, if you're hosted and want to be prioritized with this update, let us know. We can push you up the list, no problem at all.
Yep. We're also going to be looking at, if you're a Teams user, your media and quality. So we're going to look at some fields and analytics. We're going to drill through and look at how this data looks in detail, why you would use the detail, some real life examples, the stream directions and what they mean, the media names, and Richard has kindly shared a new document we've built around this. This is not a live subject to cover off. So we are going to be covering this at very high level, but the document really starts to drill down and uses some real life examples of why this data is important to you. Okay.
Yeah, just to put it in perspective, that is a 16-page document, and there's screenshots, there's tables. It's got a lot of information in there. And I think the important thing in that document that we won't dive into today is it tells you what each of the fields means and what it actually does for you as well. So something for a little bit of bedtime reading post this webinar.
The next subject is something really that probably a lot of you didn't even know existed in Prism, which is looking at audit logs and looking at error logs within the system. So why they're important, the things that, what are people looking at? Why have they looked at that data? Is there an error on your system? How do I get that error? How do I then take that information and raise a ticket using that? So I've clicked on a dashboard, I've seen a little pop-up come up in the bottom right-hand corner with an error. How do I then get that error and then pass it to support so one of our support engineers can look at why you got that error? So this isn't going to be a massive topic, but it is really useful for you to try and, get fixes for things that have been frustrating you, or, looking at what you're using on Prism and, finding out who's using it and how you can discuss with them better ways of doing things maybe.
Yeah, and I've dropped the link in there. I think everyone probably knows how to raise a case for us, but the link's there. You just click on it. It's a few simple fields that will help us to understand your issue, raise the case into my support team, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. And then finally, the last part of the topic is health jobs. So what are health jobs? What they do, who is alerted? Can you do any investigation yourself? Obviously, we'll cover in slightly more detail about obviously hosted customers compared to on-premise customers. And, again, logging tickets with us. If you've got health jobs and you're getting alerts from the system, what to do with them. So in there, okay. Right, so
if you want to change over to the live then, please, Matt, and we'll go through and demo some of this. Just while Matt's bringing up the live there, something we're always interested in is hearing your stories about Tiger Prism, how you're actually using it, what benefits you found from using it. Generally, how's it improved? Did it create savings for you? I mean, there's so many different things. So look, if you would be interested in sharing your story with us, if you'd like one of our team, you can email us hello@tiger.io to say, yeah, I'd love to share my story. When you exit the webinar, there will be a feedback form. You can put a note on the feedback form. We do read all the feedback, but we'd love to hear from you and be able to share some of those stories, some of those learnings for us as well, to be able to share on to other customers, other potential customers.
Yeah, brilliant.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's go into the live then, Matt.
Yeah, so the first part we were going to look at was analytics and, look at some of the more advanced things you can do. So I'm going to start back to one of the topics we've already covered before, but when you come into analytics, what's the difference between call legs and calls? So again, we have covered this topic, so I'm only going to go through it shortly, but calls are a singular thing that happens. So you've got one call. So if you imagine you ring into a business, you may get transferred 15 times. That's still one call, but you'd have 15 legs of that call. So if the user went to many people within your business, you would have 15 legs, but the person would still only get one call. So when you're being asked about how many calls did we have into the business, you can look at this and go, right, we had X amount of calls, or is it that they want to know how many interactions, legs, were made to people within your business, okay? So when you're looking at in all of the analytics, calls is a singular thing where you can have many legs, and the legs are the individual parts of the call, so the experience the customer had as they went through your phone system, okay? And as you go through and you start to go and look at analytics, you'll find that you'll run the same widget probably multiple times. How can you then streamline this to make it a bit easier? So what you can do is you can take an existing widget. I won't build one at the moment. We'll come back and do that in a moment. And you can save these widgets by clicking the save button at the top here. And you can give this a name. We'll give it an original name here. And then you can save the widget for me. And this will put it in my widgets on the left-hand side here. Or you can save it to the following group. And what these are security groups within Tiger Prism. You can create as many of these as you like. You just go into the security module and create widget groups. And what you can do is, as you save your widget to these groups, it then gives access to people to that particular widget so they can run it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this to the Tiger Connect 2026 group over here and click save. And what that will do is now I've saved it to that group. Anybody that has access to the Tiger Connect 2026 group will automatically get access to this widget. Okay.
Very kind of you, man.
Yeah, everyone has access to that. So once you've saved a widget, why is it better to save a widget? What are the benefits over me just going back into analytics and running it again? Well, when you save a widget, what you can do is you can then filter on these particular columns. You can save it again once you've maybe made some changes to it. But if you save the widget and you're looking for something in particular, let's say you saved it and you want to look at calls then that are slightly higher, you can filter or sort on the columns as well over here. So it's sort of having the base set and then allowing you to go and adjust it.
And of course, you might have set filters on your widget.
Correct.
So you can go back and adjust your filters as well very easily.
Yeah, so you can come back here and go, well, actually, it's not quite right. So you can edit your existing ones as well.
And that could be at department level, for example.
Correct.
So you might have a really great widget. Service management contact you and say, I want the report for all my staff, then HR contact you the next day. You could just go and change that department.
So that's a really good example. So if we go and take that, so if I edit that, and let's add in the department level. So let's add in some fields. So again, I'm going to add in the calling tree path.
And this is the field where there's over this is where there's over 1,000. And you remember Matt's words, I don't know them all, and yet he never searches, he just types them in.
Yeah. So these are the I'm going to use these two fields here, calling tree path and call tree path.
Just quickly, Matt, and I know we've covered this before as well, but for anyone new into the session, do you want to just talk about the right-hand side panel there as well quickly? Because I think for someone who's not an expert in analytics, I think that's a far better area.
Yeah, so I mean, over here you've got your dimensions and your measures. I mean, if you're looking for something in particular, so over here you've got keys. So this is probably an area that you'd never use. It's just looking at specifics of the data. But if you're looking for things like telephony, over here you'll have things like endpoint numbers. So these are all your extension numbers. Over here you can add in your calling phone numbers, etc. It could be that you're looking at flags and you want to know whether was it answered, not answered, etc. over here as well.
I just think that's particularly good because if you've got sort of no idea what the field might be called, it's great because they're all laid out. And Matt, you just drag it from there, right?
You literally just take the field and you drag and you drop it from left to right. And it could be that you want to add it as a field. It could be you want to add it as a filter.
I want to add it as both.
Or add it as both, or even as a group filter. But the most important thing is if you know roughly what you're looking for, you roughly know what the name is. So for example, you want to add a transfer field. If you just type the word transfer here, you get the list then of all of the fields that are available with that name.
But of course, we know that sometimes the field names don't always equate to maybe what you're looking for. And of course, that's driven by the data that we receive.
Correct, yeah. And, you may not know, for a good example of this is mean opinion score. So if you tried to type in mean opinion score here, it wouldn't come up because we use the acronym of MOS. Okay, so it's one of those things that you're right, you would then go and look at your quality, for example, over here and go, right, I'm looking at quality, so I want to go and see what I'm looking for. Okay, it's called MOS. I know it's MOS, I can drag it in, even though it's called a mean opinion score, we have used the acronym in code. So we looked at, you talked about here about the calling and call tree paths. Okay, so I've edited the widget because I need that in my saved widget.
And we were going to put a department in here as well,
so this
just
is
as a
the
filter.
Tree path. So this is what I'll cover these here. So the tree path is a full path of where that person sits in a department. So if you imagine what the tree looks like, you could have multiple levels. The tree path contains all of those levels throughout the system or throughout your directory. And you can then search once you've saved it. So I'm going to save the widget again. I'm going to say put it back in my Tiger Connect 2026 and update it. And now what it will do is give me those two extra fields that we've added, the calling tree path and call tree path.
And that will have overwritten the widget.
The one that we had before.
But obviously, to my point, if you had 10 departments you could in essence build 10 widgets if you wanted a HR one, a service one.
Create as many as you want. Or you could create one here and do a search for, say, service in this field, then it will just bring it up here. So rather than having to keep creating lots of widgets, you can just create this one widget with the fields in, and then you can just type in these columns here.
And now when you do the export, it'll only export what you've filtered to.
Correct, yeah. So when I click the button up here, so I want to export it to Excel or to CSV, it will only export what I've filtered upon here. So it could be that I want all my service management calls where they're internal. For example, I have to do outgoing. This is the first on the list here. So I've selected my outgoing for service management, and I can then export that. Okay. And then next time when I come in, so if I come back in, it would have got rid of my filters at the top here. But again, then I can go, actually, someone just sent me a request from development. So I can just then type in development, and it would then search through all of those, find me. Let's change the dates because that's because they haven't made any calls this morning. It will then search through all the departments and give me all of the calls where the calling department was development. Okay, so that's sort of, advantages of saving them as well from here. So from this section here as well, how do we share it? So say I'm really happy with this widget and I want to share this with my colleague. How do I share this with somebody? Well, on all the screens, there's a little export button at the top here. So if you click on the export button here, what it will do then is select the text on the screen. It should be blue. It may be different colors on your screen, depending. And then all you simply do is right click and copy. Then you can send that to somebody in your instant messaging program that you have on an email. It doesn't really matter. And then they come to the import widget section in the bottom left-hand corner here. They come to this box here. They right click and they paste. And when they click confirm, what it will do then is it will then take that widget and bring it up on their screen for you. Okay.
And I think it's worth remembering, I shared the Get Started link in the chat. We actually have some pre-built widgets, some really interesting widgets in there as well. If there's something you're struggling to create, perhaps yourselves, let us know. We like to build widgets to put in there that will help other people as well. So if you're ever struggling to get your widget quite right, let us know, your analytics query quite right, let us know. We'll be happy to build it.
Absolutely.
So that's great. That's great. I have Prism access. You want to share me the widget. You set it up as a private one. I'm not in the group. So you just wanted me to have it.
Yeah.
What if you just wanted me to have the data, Matt?
Then literally all you would do is just export it to Excel, to CSV, and then you can email that, again, sharing it on whatever your instant messaging platform that you're using, and they can then take that data, they can take it into Excel, put graphs over the top of it, whatever they need.
Import into Power BI, whatever
the upstream is of the data at that point.
Okay.
So one of the other things we talked about is, what other fields do we need to look at and so on in here. So what are some really useful fields? So what we have is one field that I always find useful is initiating reason and terminating reason. So these are two fields that tell you why the call came to your end user. So normal means it was ringing, and so it comes to you as a normal. If I do a sort on some of these, we could see in this one it was diverted to the person before they picked it up.
It's like an overflow almost.
Yeah, overflow. Yeah. It could be that it went to voicemail. There's lots of different things. So there was an inquiry. So what this means is it tried to ring it before it couldn't get through. They didn't answer, so it was then transferred. Okay, so this is really useful to look at why it went to a phone, why it left a phone. Okay. Again, as I said, if there are fields or you want to know whether there's information available on your data, send us a support request. We can obviously look at it with you, because it could be that you want to look at, say, DNIS digits. So what was the number dialed to get to your business? So you can enable this column. Over here, you can see if the data is available, because it isn't available on every CDR source, but some of them do. So this was the number that was run to get to that point. Okay.
We got our internal filter on there still, Matt.
No, we haven't at the moment. So yeah. So there's some sort of useful fields as well that you can go away and have a look at. Obviously, as we said, the fields on the right-hand side, take some, drag them in, have a look what data's in it. It may be useful to you as well.
Yeah. And we actually had a real example where we helped somebody to add that DNIS, because there was a calls coming in onto an extension and they were like, no one's got that number. No one's calling that number. They ran this and found that somebody had put a divert onto that extension. So
Yeah.
of course we then found where and they went and turned the divert off. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's, you know, that's the type of thing you can try and find this information out from here.
yeah. All right.
So the last and final part is for any of you PI people here, you've probably noticed now there are some additional colors on these columns at the top here. So we've added a new feature which allows you now to pivot on this data. So what I'm going to try and do is explain to you what you can do with these here and why they're really useful. So I'm going to start by showing you something very simple. So let's clear all the columns out here because I don't want them all in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with something simple. So again, some nice columns to learn about: hour bins, half-hour bins, quarter-hour bins. So I'm going to start with an hour bin. So an hour bin will tell me between these hours what's happened. And what I want to do now is I'm going to add the call direction onto here. Okay, now the call direction is blue, which means I can click on this and I can retrieve columns out. So what I'm going to do is show you without me setting it. So what I'm going to get is a list of between this hour there was an outgoing call, between this hour there was an outgoing call. Again, there were 2,332 items. This to me is pointless. Doesn't tell me anything at the moment. Now, if I flick this and I say retrieve as columns, what this will now do is go off and count how many incoming calls I had between those hours, how many outgoing calls I had between those hours, and it will give me a nice statistic that says, right, between 11 and 12, the business had 9 incoming legs, 144 outgoing legs, 12 internal legs, and no tandem legs at that point. Okay.
And of course, you could drag that down into filters as well.
Yeah.
And put an outgoing only or an incoming
Yeah,
only
you can drag
filter on
those
it
in and
if you
say, right,
wanted
I'm
to.
only looking at those as well.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, really helpful in that respect, that could be all that you want. And it could be as well that you're looking at, you could add in, say, pull tree paths again and say, I only want this where it contains service. Okay, and then it would filter out this bit here to only include all the service stuff here. So if you're looking for how many calls went into service in hours, you can see that information as well.
So this is almost verging on our dashboard function.
Yeah, it's very, very useful, and there are quite a lot of columns available that have this.
Well, I know when you had that pre-built widget up, there was at least 6 items in there.
Yeah,
from our standard fields that you could do the pivots on.
So it could be then you want to know then of those 130 outgoing calls, why did they terminate? So I could add in the terminating reason and add it in here, and it would then tell me of those. So your columns will stay the same, the first 4 sets. Oh, hang on, let me take off the filter for a second, because that's going to confuse the totals. So the first 4 sets will still stay the same. So it's still got here. The numbers haven't changed. But what it's now doing is telling me what were the terminating reasons of those. So of those calls, one of them was diverted and 118 were normal. And it could be over here, look, you have 4 transfers, 2 redirects, okay? So what you're going to end up with is a whole data set of why they left the call. So it could be in this hour, we had 10 incoming, of which 10 of those were transferred, maybe the total amount of outgoing and internal, but 10 of those calls in that hour were transferred out from an extension, okay? So that stuff is really useful. And you could even then add in things like date. So you could add in here and say, well, I want that by day. Right, now I've got a full data set here of per day, per hour, of how many incoming, outgoing, and internal calls, and the terminating reasons of all of those. I can export that into Power BI, into Excel, wherever
You'd start as a CSV generally, wouldn't you, for this sort of...
You've got that information now available.
And you could just click on the X on the hour bin and take it to being a day,
Yeah,
for
you
example.
can literally take that down and go,
They
right.
take it and go, actually, I don't want to know by hour, I just want to know by day. That's going to be enough for me.
Yeah, exactly. And again, remember we're looking at legs here. So if somebody comes to you and says, I want to know the total amount of calls, okay, that have come into the business, again, you've got them in all of the analytics fields over here.
Yeah.
You could just add in the word date over here, or you could even add in the word day, and you could add the weekday numbers or the day numbers or the day labels as well. You could go for this month and say, so if I run that again, I'm going to get a whole list of stuff that's not really that much useful.
And obviously you're using quick dates there, but if you click down on the quick dates, you can choose a specific range as well.
Yeah. And then we can go through here and see, you know, on this day, how many incoming, outgoing and internal calls we have. This is not length, this is calls to the business. So if that's what somebody's asking you for, there you go. You've got it all now.
But obviously here, because we're looking now at calls, you can't pull that more granular information.
No, it's not the more granular. No. But you've got the stats. So this is where, again, the question when people are talking to you, do you want legs, i.e. how many individual interactions the customer had? Or is it we just want to know how many calls have come in? So be one call, it doesn't matter how many interactions, and there you go, there's your stats.
All right, thank you, Matt. Look, I know there's a lot we could do on this, and look, we're happy to talk about these things all day. If this is something you really think is going to be a big benefit to you, get in touch with us. I mean, you can pop a message in the chat, a direct message to me in the chat. I will make sure that one of the team reaches out to you and spends a little bit more time after this webinar with you. But all right, Matt, let's move on and talk about media and quality insights, please, if we can, for Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. So how do I get media and quality information out of Tiger Prism for Teams? So
can we start with why would you want media and quality information out of Microsoft Teams?
Why would you want it? So the information is available with in analytics to tell you things like, you know, what driver was being used for the camera when a call was made, what headset was being used when a call was made, what was the bandwidth being used, what Wi-Fi connection were they connected to, were they on a wired connection, wireless connection, and so on. So what you can do is, if somebody's complaining about, you know, I'm at home, every time I make a call, the quality is rubbish, what's going on? You can start to use the Teams media analytics to try and work out this information. Now, as I said, we're going to provide you a document which covers every single field that's available in here. But if we start with something, you know, you could come into here and go and do a search for person. So I'm going to say that Matt is complaining to me that his call quality has been rubbish over the last month. Okay, so I'm going to go and look at this, and I'm going to find all calls that Matt's made and go through here and go, right, this is his section here. And I'm going to then add in something like Wi-Fi signal strength. So something really simple, right? So it could be just adding this on, you go, right, oh, look, his Wi-Fi signal strength's 0. And that's the reason it's 0 is I don't use Wi-Fi, I use wired.
Cabled, yeah.
So, you know, you can then go, right, oh, actually then, okay, so it's 0. What's his network connection type? How is he connecting to make the Teams calls? Okay, he's using wired, he's not using wireless. Okay, so that's not my problem. Okay, there. But if I go and choose somebody else, it could be that their Wi-Fi signal strength is like 10, which means they're a million miles away from their wireless router. And what's happening is the connection's not so great, and that's why they're having a bad experience. Now, from our experience, that's mainly the thing, is people are at home, they're wandering around with their laptops and stuff, you know, working in different places, and they're going, yeah, it works perfect when I sit in the kitchen right next to the router, and it's not working so well when I'm sat at the back of the garden. Well, that's because, you know, that you can show them to them that that call wasn't so great because of the wireless strength. Yeah. Okay. Now, what happens if I take a call and I want to look at that in more detail? Okay, I don't want to add in 1,000 different columns to try and work out what the problem was. I know we had a problem on this call here. Let's see if I can go and pick one down here. That one there. What I want to do is go and find out what's going on. So I'm going to go and pick the call.
So you just clicked on the what we call the burger button there
yeah.
on the left-hand side.
Clicked on the burger button over on the left-hand side. I've gone over here. Now, when I click on this, the first thing it shows you is that it's green or it's red. So if this bar here is red, it means you had a problem. And you can click on this red bar as it would be over here, and it would tell you, what the problem was over here. It would give you the, the fault or whatever it may be on here, or it will tell you all the information about what happened on that call.
And obviously this is all provided to us from Microsoft. From
Microsoft, correct, yes. So everything from here comes from Microsoft. So if I drill down through into this call, I want to go and find out, they're complaining that they had a problem with the audio, right? So as I drill through, I can find the audio section between Gonzalo and Matt, and can find the audio. If they're complaining about video, you'd go onto the video section. But in my instance, Matt came to me and said, right, the audio was bad. So I can come into here and I can look in regards to whether it was the caller. So was it Gonzalo that was complaining, or was it Matt complaining? So I'm going to say, I want to look at the call link. So Matt was the one who made the complaint. So I'm changing it. Gonzalo said the call was fine. Matt said it was bad. So I can come into here and I can now start to look. So I can see he was using his Jabra headset, which is good. But does he have the right driver? Was the driver incorrect for that? Do I need to tell him to upgrade it?
I mean, actually, just on headset, we had one customer use this to look at adoptions.
Yeah.
They went out and bought, I think, 10,000 Jabra headsets or something, sent them to all their staff, and staff were still complaining about call quality. And when they checked, only about 1,000 of them had actually started using their new headsets. So
they all sat in the box because they didn't want to plug them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, then you can start to look, is there any, things that the signal level, you can check that, make sure that's within boundaries, etc. So all these things here tell you what happened on it. And it could be that it was a speaker glitch, that it can monitor whether there was a problem with the headphones. So it's not really,
Of course, this allows you to really establish, is it a one-off or is there a consistent problem? Just because obviously some of these fields you can pull in onto that analytics.
Yeah, all of these fields here you can just pull into the analytics if you want to find out more. And again, then you can come into the network, go and look at his network strength, etc. And here you can see that he had a gigabit link into it and it was all fine and the stream was fine. So we would go, it's not a problem. What it probably likely is at that point, if you've got all these stats here and you're going, all of this looks good, probably a cable problem, send them out a new headset, see if that fixes the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because obviously you've got an IT infrastructure aspect in here as well now.
Yeah.
Where do you log a fault with whoever you purchased the laptop from because they're saying my laptop's not working, or so I guess look, this is very helpful, and I can't remember which of our Ask the Experts it was, but we did show how to build a report on quality as well, didn't we, in one of our previous analytics. We'll try and find out which one that was and get it into the chat. But yes, it can be helpful because obviously you could send that report to your infrastructure team to say, actually be proactive. Here's a list of people we think have got faults with equipment at the moment. Do you want to go and have a conversation with them?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, once you have all this information, it makes your life easier to try and work out actually where the underlying problem sits, rather than making a guess or asking them, well, what do you think happened on the call? At least you've got information in front of you to try and make that. As I said, I'm not going to go through all these columns. It is available in that new document that's shared, so you can take that away, go and digest it. It is a lot of information that's available, but hopefully you should be able to get the most now out of the team's analytics media section to find out exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I've dropped the link again in there for the document. So if you do want to go and have a look, absolutely it's there. Yeah, go and have a look.
Okay, so the next part we're going to look at is probably an area that we've never even really covered on Ask the Expert, but something that, is quite useful. And recently I've actually had quite a lot of interest in this from companies. So from your main screen, you have an auditing page. Now, Some of you may not have access to this on the call. Normally this is an administration task, and I think the next two subjects really are administration tasks, but we're going to look at what the auditing section gives you. So from the auditing, we get to this home page here and it gives you some high levels of, how many audits went into the database in the last 24 hours and how many errors you've had in the last 24 hours or in the last 30 days, okay? So there's a real high level. So if you come in here and you see massive numbers, you could be going, oh, okay, hang on, I may have a problem, or, look, there's lots of people accessing it and doing things, what are they up to? So what do the audit logs bring me? So the audit logs have a dashboard. The dashboard is very simple to use. There is just a specific date range or a quick date range. So I could say, right, this month, how many activities have there been on Tiger Prism? And how many users have logged on to Tiger Prism and done things? And what was our top 10 most useful or used application? So I can see here, Prism Teams here is my most used one. Analytics again is used 75 times and the scheduler 18 times here. And then there's some stats about, which activity and who's my top users and stuff like that from here. Now, it could be a log on and go, oh, look, Matt's doing a lot here. What's he doing? What's he searching for? Now, when you come into the audit logs and search here, and this one's going to be very, useful to come and look at, what we can do is we can see what they've been doing. So you can filter on things. So I want to go and look what he's been up to on Teams, etc. You can filter, you can export. But let's say he did a search and I want to know what he's done a search for. I can click onto the burger button here and I can look in the context and it will tell me all the fields they returned, what the filter was, etc. from here. So if somebody goes off and, starts looking for stuff that maybe they shouldn't do, that information is actually fully logged within Tiger Prism, okay? And you can go and audit that as well. So over on the top here, you can add additional columns to look for that.
And generally, this is system administrators.
This is system admin.
But you could add this to somebody else's profile. So, for example, if you had a security team, you didn't want them to necessarily see all of the user data, but you wanted them to be able to see the users of Prism data, you could give this to their profile, right? Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Recently, we've had a big interest in this where, teams are just wanting access to this screen here so they can come and audit because, something's got out accidentally and they want to know who did it. So they can come in here and audit who did a search for that particular phone number and what they were looking for so they can go and ask those questions, okay?
Yeah.
So,
and we did do a session actually, and I've just linked in the one on Teams. I'll link in the one on user administration as well and security. So if you're not sure how to add a group, how to create a new user, etc., we have a session on that. Go and watch that. That will help you be able to do that. Yeah.
And as I said, any audit things in here that you need questions on, give us a shout. But this is where it's all done. This is where it's all logged, and everything is transaction every time you click on something, and it is auditable. So you can go back to the teams internally to say, yep, we're fully audited. We know what people are up to.
Yeah.
With the error logs, again, you've got dashboards here. So it could be you want to come and look in here and go and look, what errors am I happening and so on. Now, why are errors useful? As I said, if you're running a dashboard or an analytics query and you get a little pop-up toaster pop-up that says error or something along those lines, and you want to try and raise a ticket with our support desk on it, because it's happened twice, let's say, if you come into the error log, you'll see in here the application name and the date. So you'll know, right, yeah, I was on Microsoft 365, I was in this window here, and it got an error. So I can click on the burger button for that error. I can come down to the bottom. I can click export of that, which then gives me a file. I can then attach that to my support ticket and go, that's what I was getting. Now, what that does is gives the support guys all the information they need to build a ticket and go and talk to either the development team about what happened or to try and replicate the fault, because it tells us all the information about what you were doing, who you were logged on as, where the fault was, what the trace ID was, etc. So it gives us all that information. Now with hosted, that's really easy. We can just go and look through all of that. If it's on-prem, we may need to do a quick session with you to maybe find out a tiny bit more information, but 99% of the time, it's all in this file that you've exported, and we can raise a ticket off the back of it.
And whilst to you it may not look of any help, to us as we read through it, yeah, it's a bit like the Matrix here. You know, we just see different information in there.
Okay, so that's the auditing. Again, maybe is you know, some of you may never even go in there, but it is there. And when people are asking you questions about it, it's useful to at least know that it's there and available to you.
Yeah, and look, no one likes those awkward HR phone calls saying I need to investigate someone, but I think it's important you know it's there as a feature, because it does happen from time to time, unfortunately. So just to remind everyone, if you've got any questions, do pop them in the chat. I mean, obviously I'm dropping a lot of information in the chat today, but if you've got questions, do drop them in and we'll be happy to pick them up and include them. But yeah. All right, thank you, Matt. So last topic for today is health jobs.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting area, and obviously if you're a hosted customer, your health job alerts come to us, we fully manage them. It's one of the benefits of being hosted, frankly. If there's a problem, you probably won't even know about it. We'll have fixed it before you saw it. However, for on-prem customer or non-hosted, as I generally term, they nominate who they go to, right? And I know that can be part of the problem.
Yeah, so hosted, probably less of an issue around this because, as Richard said, we're looking at this anyway. But when you're on premise, what there are is running in the background, there are a set of what we call system health jobs. So the system health jobs are things that are running in the background. So if I create one just to show you the list of them, we are monitoring. If you're a Microsoft customer, we will monitor the Microsoft connections. If you're a telephony customer, so what this means, if you've got traditional PBX, your Cisco's, your Avayas, your Mitels, etc., we're monitoring those. If you're Webex and Zoom, again, it's, you know, we're monitoring that data. So I'm going to stick as a telephony one as standard, and then we have a set of jobs that we're doing. So we constantly are monitoring whether stuff's happening. So, for example, CDR sourcing activity. So if Tiger Prism hasn't received a call from that source in a set amount of time, so if I set that and I click through these quickly, we can set how many minutes we have per CDR source.
Or hours.
Or hours, yeah. So, you know, it could be that, you know, it's a very, very quiet site. So
we might have 2 users in it.
Yeah.
It's a remote switch that you just can't get rid of.
Yeah. So we could set it to a day and it wouldn't send an alert. So as long as a call happened once a day, it wouldn't send an alert. Okay. But it could be it's your main site and you know full well that every 20 minutes there should be at least one interaction. Okay. And you can set these up to go, right, that's what they are. And when we adjust these based upon, you know, size.
Yeah. And given this is CDR, this doesn't have to be an outbound call. This means somebody tried to call in, an internal call. It's any activity, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. So as long as it doesn't reach those parameters, you'll never get an alert. And it could be as well on the schedule. A lot of them, we turn them off out of hours as well. So, you know, out of hours, you know, it's not busy.
Yeah, a lot of customers are 8 till 6, 9 to 5, etc. Still, aren't they? So,
but some of our larger, you know, NHS trusts and stuff that are 24/7, you'll be expecting.
Yeah. Or some of our global customers, for example.
Yeah, where, you know, calls are happening around the world all the time. Okay, so you can set these as well to only monitor between certain hours, which we obviously set up. From here as well.
And we set these up. So when we do your installation, you come on board as a new customer, we configure all this.
We configure all of these and they will be going to somebody at the moment. Now, what you'll need to do is check who
I like your word, it's somebody.
It is going to somebody that can action it. Okay, because that's one of the things is what we tend to ask for is a generic mailbox. So we'll send it.
Yeah, shared mailbox.
Shared mailbox, infrastructure, wherever it may go.
Telephony, whatever you called it.
Yeah. But sometimes we notice that it goes to a particular person and then maybe they've gone sick or whatever it is, and nobody's getting those. So it'd be worth just, if you're an on-premise customer, spend a little time, just come into here, see who they're being sent to, make sure that that is the correct place. And again, you can do that by coming into your search over here, and all your jobs will be in here, clicking into them and going and seeing who they're being sent to. And just making sure that they are going to the right people, because
and look, a lot of these health jobs are triggered by infrastructure issues.
Correct.
Which is why when you're on-prem, the alerts go to you rather than, if anyone's sat wondering, well, why don't Tiger deal with those alerts for me as well? It's generally because the data is not being received, which means it's going to be something on your side. That's why the alerts come to you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you're hosted and we're getting data from you, we would contact you and say, we'd check all of our systems, then we'd contact you and say, we haven't seen any data from this switch for 24 hours. We're just wondering, is there a known problem? Are you not aware? So it's slightly different ways of dealing with things, but it's important to understand that most of these alerts are actually to tell you that there's a fault somewhere else in your environment.
Yeah. Now, some of the things here as well, you may be getting alerts that say the service is disabled. So if someone accidentally has gone in and changed a flag, or something's happened where a background service has disabled itself, again, you can raise tickets on all of these to our support desk. We can then investigate for you, but obviously you need to know where they're going to by going into the jobs and making sure they're going to people at the moment that can action them, or it could be you go and create a mailbox to go and send all the alerts to as well. So it's just really a call out just to double check, because it may be this was installed 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and you've never really gone back in and checked this, or you may have updated your infrastructure box and you changed the email address and you just need to go in here and change it. So that's where you would go. You go into the jobs and you would just double check that they're going to the correct place under your success notifications. And just choose one of these. Make sure that they're going to the right places, and there are some details in here. And if you want to add some details ever as you learn about, normally all we do is go and restart the service on the PABX. You can come back into here and you can add text to the email as well to remind yourself about things that you could do next time to make it easier when you go and fix it.
And look, this is all about helping. Yes, it's all about less downtime. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're well aware that most switches, for example, will hold data for a period. And it's this is why it's important the alerts are acted on quickly, though, because they will only hold it for so long. CUCMs, for example, generally give 30 days. They'll hold it on the switch, which is great. But some older switches, some of the Panasonics, for example, might only give you 2 days.
Or some of them are even down to records. And some of them, there is PBX that is 16,000 records, and that's all it holds.
And if you're a big organisation doing 16,000 calls an hour, for example.
It isn't very much. So getting these, actioning them is really important, and making sure that they are going to the correct places, to the correct people who can action them. And, they could be as well in here that it's missing the phone number. Put in the Tiger support phone number, put it in and say, right, ring them, give them a call, let them know that you've got the alert. We'd rather work with you and look at what the fault is, then you start losing data and so on. So just a call out to everyone, go and have a look and see where how it's set up, make sure it's going for the right people. And if there are some missing, again, let us know. We're happy to come through, talk to you about setting them up and making sure that the alerts are going to the right people, giving you the right information, and making sure that you don't lose any data, because that's the important part.
And the word lose is always a scary word for me. And when we say lose, it's not lost into the wider world. No one else has your data, but the problem is it's just not available.
It's just not. You can't run reports on it if we didn't collect it. So Zeb, if you're on premise, go away, check them, make sure that everything is up to date.
So I haven't had any questions come in. That's okay. Look, there's a lot there today. If there's anything that's really interested you and you want to have a little bit more time with us, do get in touch. You can email customersuccess@tiger.io. You can email hello@tiger.io. It will get through to the right place. You have mine and Matt's details. You can contact us. We will arrange someone to spend more time with you if this is an area you really feel you can benefit from.
Yeah.
As I've said, for the next webinar, we are going ahead on the 15th of April, Mastering Reporting. So we're going back into reporting and again, looking in more detail at some of the functionality of reporting and how you can sort of maximize your return on that area of Prism. If you want to register for that, when you exit this webinar, you will be given a please leave feedback. We love your feedback as well, but there is also a tick box on there saying please register me for the next webinar. Or as I've said in the chat, you can email hello@tiger.io. Just put the word webinar in the subject. We'll take care of everything for you, get your invite through, get you registered. As always, if you have any specific questions on reporting that you would love to see us deliver in that next Ask the Expert, please do put them either in the feedback form or put them in your email that you're going to send us. We will make sure they're included for you. That's the overarching topic, but we want to make sure we're delivering what you want to see in it.
Yeah, because it could be we may not cover it in this one, but if there's, we get a lot of interest in, say, we want to cover off a specific dashboard and so on, we'll just add it into one of our sessions and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it and, cover it off. Yeah,
lovely. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. Hope you've enjoyed the session. As always, it will be available later for you to come back and look through because I know we run through it a million miles an hour sometimes. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.